All right, new episode of Whiskey Riff Raff with Granger Smith, brought to you by his new album, Country Things. Awesome album, a lot of fun stuff on here, a lot of personal stuff on here. An album you said you think might have been your best work done to date. I think we'd probably agree with that. Lots of fun songs we can get into on here, but what's the reaction been from the album? And for all the people listening, we'll have the link to buy in the comments on the video, and then we'll also have this in the post so you can click and buy, get your album, get the vinyl, stream it, do everything you want with the album. But the reaction so far from the fans, how's it been?
Well, what's up? It's good to be on the podcast. I gotta say that, man. I'm a big fan, so this is gonna be fun today. The action has been good. It's hard. We're so deep in the weeds right now, just a few days after the release, but we've been just running and gunning and nose to the ground with social media and shooting videos, and so it's hard to tell. And the reason I say that, I guess, is because whenever you first put out an album, everyone's like, great, a new album, new music. And then it takes a few weeks, maybe a few months before you really start seeing certain songs rise above others. Mm-hmm. Other songs kind of fall off that not enough people react to. And then when we start playing shows, you could see people definitely reacting to certain songs, region to region, market to market. And then other songs, you kind of realize you thought maybe they were going to be really popular, and then no one ever requests them and no one ever sings along when you play them. So, but I love that I love that process. So far, it seems like it's going good.
Have you had any right out of the gate where you're seeing like, all right, this one's an early fan favorite?
I think with Earl Dibbles Jr., the alter ego, there's always the Earl songs that come out early always get really good momentum because of the flash in the pan that those kind of songs are. Like we have a song called Diesel that's getting a lot of good reaction. We're shooting a music video, and I expect that because it's the fried chicken of what we do. It's just like, you get it right now, and you could ingest it really easy. And then there's the steaks, the filet mignon, that takes some more effort, more work, and you kind of see those benefits later.
Go ahead. I was just saying, like a couple listens, some of the deeper stuff, you kind of got to sit and work through, and then let it hit you a few times, and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm on this level.
Right, absolutely, and that's and I always get scared about that. That's one of my bigger fears putting out music, because you're like, man, I don't want some of these flash in the pan songs to just take off, and then people forget about going and making that deeper dive and listening to some of the second verse or bridges on some of the songs stuck in the middle. But you want those to be heard.
Right. The title track I love, and I think it paints a great picture kicking off the album, Country Things, and lots of stuff throughout that song, through the verses, I think people can really relate to and kind of feel, and kind of see, you can see that picture that you're kind of singing about. Do you ever get enticed to kind of sing about the other side of Country Things, like the Walmart and like the weirdos that put the tampons over their face for the medical masks right now, and the guy at the gas station he was on meth, and he was a high school starting quarterback, and then you have the
prom queen who's working at the Dollar General now.
Or for where I live, we had this, as soon as it hit 70 degrees, you would get these guys who would take their shirts off and just drive with their shirts off. They usually look like Kid Rock. These guys always kind of look like a Kid Rock kind of guy. Literally the look of him. That side of the country world. You ever think about a little bit of that when you're writing one of these songs?
Yeah. Those are definitely the country things also. But you can't have one without the other. And
Walmart,
God
big one.
God love them, Walmart. We love the people of Walmart. And, I would admit that a lot of times I am that guy too, because I think there's a stigma when you go to Walmart. You're just like, well, I definitely don't have to get dressed up. I'm going to Walmart. Like, I don't have to have closed-toe shoes when I go to Walmart. I'm in my slippers. I'll just go to Walmart. So I think we all do that at some level. But yeah, and that's where Earl Dibbles Jr. comes in place, really, in so many ways, is that he can go way down the road. When you start talking about country things, he can go way down the road and just say what you're thinking, but you don't always hear in a song.
Yeah, I think another one, and I don't know if you know the guy as well, like Muscadine Bloodline's a great duo, and I think they tweeted something similar. They're like, all the guys in high school that we went like are still trying to be like rappers these days or something. I had a lot of those guys too when I went to high school. I had that big high school in a shitty, like medium-sized town, but it was like pretty redneck. It was just one of those places. And when I describe it, people are like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like you go to the CVS, you're kind of looking around, you hope you don't run into somebody from high school type of thing. And that,
totally.
like I worked at Dairy Queen in high school. That was a cool place to work.
I feel like for me too, I used to get my haircut at the Walmart because there was a haircut in there. And then I hit that age where I was like maybe high school where I'm like, I don't want to run into anybody here. So then I had to like tell my mom, like, I don't want to get my haircut at Walmart anymore. And it was this whole big thing. And then it's like, well, I got to take you to the salon.
Well, then you got to fancy it up and go to Supercuts.
Yeah. And then I went to Supercuts, but I had to drive to the next town to get to Supercuts.
I was gonna say, because our Supercuts is like in the same strip mall as Walmart, so that's an easy.
I think I walked by a Supercuts recently, and they still have those like 80s or 90s like shapes that divide the booths or whatever,
and like the portraits of people, like just like JCPenney models. Like
it's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's all.
I wonder what now. And during COVID, I wonder what Supercuts is like now.
Oh man, I don't know.
Dude, I mean, I haven't got my hair cut.
Me neither. It's the longest I've gone in quite a while. My wife's just staring at me. She's like, "Shave your fucking head." I'm just like,
Speaking of haircuts, we're getting way off topic here, but Granger, are you familiar with the Flowbee at all? It just came out that George Clooney cuts his hair with a Flowbee. You hook it up to a vacuum cleaner and cut your hair.
Yeah,
I never heard of this.
Yeah, George Clooney there's no way he uses that. There's no way.
My dad still does.
They paid him $1 million to say that, surely.
I don't even know if they make them anymore, do they?
George Clooney?
Yeah, George Clooney says he still cuts his own hair with a Flowbee.
No way.
Did you see that he did say that he confirmed that long urban myth that he gave all of his buddies that he grew up with $1 million in cash apiece? He like brought him to his house. And he was like, I want to thank you all for all this. One guy was like a bartender in an airport. Like they're all from all walks of life these days, but there was always that rumor that he gave all of his buddies $1 million a piece. And then he finally confirmed it, that he invited them over and he kind of like dropped it on them. Real Ocean's 11 thing. He like got cash and suitcases and gave it to them. That's pretty cool, right? But if you sell your tequila company for $1 billion, what's that?
Yeah. So how many people was that?
13 million, 1 million cash per friend. And I saw somebody being like, what about that 14th friend?
Right.
Right.
My biggest fear is being the 14th guy. My biggest fear is always being the 14th.
That's what everybody kept saying. They're like 13. Like, how do you, that's more friends than I have.
Yeah. Right.
Like nobody really has 13 friends. True friends.
That's a lot. And there's definitely the 14th guy. There's definitely, I mean, if you're counting that high, that's like when you invite people to your wedding. And there's always a limit where you're like, well, if we're going to invite Uncle Ronnie, then we definitely got to invite his son. And then you just like the list keeps going. So that's unfortunate for number 14.
Yeah. And the next thing you know, you have 18 people at your wedding in the bridal party. And you're just like,
we both got married within the last couple of years. So we experienced the whole, like, all that stuff. And getting back to kind of like the album, the family stuff though, a lot of fun songs, but then there's some really interesting personal songs that have a unique twist to them that for us, I see I Kill Spiders as a song and I go, oh, that's interesting. Because most guys right away, boom, something clicks in your head and you go, I know exactly where that song's probably headed. It's a little different. You're singing about it in a little bit of a different way, but you know, the Killing the Spiders thing, very unique way to write about a subject matter like that. How did that kind of come about in some of those deeper songs on the album?
What did you think? You said it comes to your head. What did you think whenever you first saw that title that would be about?
I mean, you're talking about specifically your daughter, right? In there? Yeah. So it's like, I just picture all the moments with either my wife or in the past girlfriends or whatever that I've had, where it's just chaos when we see a spider. But I grew up, my parents were born in Europe, and there was like a superstition where they were from that like spiders in the house meant good luck and that money was coming. So growing up, we were never allowed to kill spiders. So I grew up not afraid of spiders. Nobody was afraid of spiders in my house. It was like, let them be. Like,
Wow.
for me, it went to a weird place, but
I never knew that. So that song's not going to do well in Europe.
If you were pitching it there, maybe think about it.
It depends probably where, but yeah, I mean, I just pictured the whole hearing a shriek from the other room, and I come in and I think somebody's hurt, and there's just like a spider.
Yeah, that's my wife to a T. Like, Wes, get in here, there's a spider.
Yeah, so,
and I'm just like, oh my god, just kill it. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah, that's definitely the where the song idea came from. A buddy of mine, a good friend of mine, called and he said, "Man, I got a great idea for a song. It's called I Kill Spiders." And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting. What's it about?" And he said, "Well, it's my two girls. No matter what I do in my life, no matter what happens in my career, I'll always be the hero to them that can kill spiders." And I was like, "Man, I love that. I love that idea." So I went home and made a little work tape of it. It's one of those songs that just didn't take very long to write. And I sent him the work tape, and he's like, "That's great. Don't change a thing." So that's always going to be a special song for me, my little girl, for sure.
I feel like fatherhood too is like such a theme on the album. Like buy a boy a baseball was like one for me that just kind of immediately connected. Even just the subtle like get them outside line of that. Like I just feel like it's such a, and Steve just had a boy a few months ago, but like it's just such a societal like get outside, kids. Like just that little line kind of resonated with me a lot.
For sure, that's me too. I mean, and I struggle with that with my little boy. It's so easy to give them a screen, and they just get hooked on that screen. They're quiet, they're well behaved, they sit on their little couch. You don't hear, and you're like, "Man, this is great. I could work, I could take care of stuff." But at some level, you're like, "Man, this is mild child abuse to do that to a kid, to put them on a couch with a screen." And so a lot of that song is get them outside, and we could all say go outside and play, but it takes discipline from the parent to actually get them to go outside, because it's more work for the parent to make sure they go outside and monitor them and make sure they're not getting into trouble or getting with the bad kids in the neighborhood or whatever. So yeah, it takes more work, but we all know that they're going to grow up better by being outside.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's an element even now, like we're not like old, we're like in our early 30s, but even with stuff we've tweeted, when you talk about like the water from a hose, growing up drinking that, now it's all like, oh, like you don't know what's in there. And we used to just beat each other up on the trampoline and use boxes as table, just like simple stuff, riding on the pegs of our little mongoose bike around. And it's like, now you see, you go to pick up some food, or go to they're just on their phone. There's 70-year-olds on their iPhones, and I'm just like, what? Where did this come? Like,
you go to Applebee's and there's like a family with like 6 kids on their phones, and
it's kind of depressing, kind of a lot depressing, I guess.
Yeah, it is. How old is your boy?
He actually yesterday he turned 7 months.
So yeah, you'll see exactly what this is, because you get to this level, I mean, you're just like a couple months away, if you're not already there, when they know how to run an iPhone. Like they'll know how to swipe, how to scroll.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. And so you get to this point where you're at a restaurant and he's fussing, and you're like, "Here, just take my phone for a while."
Mm-hmm.
So easy. Then they're quiet. You get to eat. And so that you could see why parents do that, and that that's damaging to that kid to make them relying on that. And I could relate to all the things you said, man. The mongoose pegs and beating each other. I mean, a trampoline's like the perfect MMA octagon.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's a struggle, but we got to get them outside for sure.
Yeah, totally. And well, speaking of outside though, I guess that kind of leads right in because you mentioned something about your live shows and Earl Dibbles and all the kind of some of the more like the fun you have with some of your music videos and all these types of things. And COVID's been horrible for everybody, but you know, in the music industry, it's been really bad from the venues to the teams of the artists and all that stuff, not being able to play live shows. We kind of ask everybody this question this year, but when you kind of look ahead now to 2021 and moving forward, are you completely like, I have no idea, or how are you kind of approaching this next year of like, well, I hope by June we can start playing some shows? Or are you just resigning to the fact that this may never be normal again? Because a lot of people are saying it's just those days of like, we think about like you played at like Joe's Bar in Chicago and places like that, like these really great small like honky tonk on top of each other. You meet somebody at the bar, you do a shot with them as the concert's going on. You're kind of all, the thought of that being like gone is kind of like, whoa. But what you hear, you're like, I don't know, like, how are they going to enforce some of these rules at some of these places? How are they going to kind of make these concerts feel real again for the artists and the fans? What's your take on kind of the whole thing? I know it's a loaded question, but.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert by any means on any of this stuff. I have talked to a whole lot of people just like you have. We have been playing tour dates. We've probably played since March, maybe 15 or 20 dates in a handful of states. And I've seen South Dakota where there's pretty much no rules. Missouri didn't have any rules. We played Pennsylvania where we were a drive-in movie theater. We've played a bunch of different, we played like minor league baseball stadiums where they're in pods. I could say this, I would bet everything and be absolutely shocked if we didn't at some point get back to normal. I gotta think it's a matter of when, not if. It will be back to, like you said, Joe's Bar, people just elbow to elbow. I mean, it's either going to that's going to naturally happen, or people are going to force that to happen because they're just going to be fed up with it. When, that's the question. And I in March, when this all went down and we came home from a tour and put our suitcases down after it all got canceled, I just thought, okay, about 2 weeks. This is going to take about 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we all said, well, definitely by Easter. You know, we all said that. And then we said, well, when it gets hot in June, things will be pretty much back to normal. By June, we all said, I mean, definitely the fall.
Right.
Here we are, you know, in December, and it's like nothing has changed. Nothing has gotten any better from March as far as entertainment and concert world and sports. So I have been wrong every single time I guessed. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I can't even guess. Yeah, it's summertime. That sounds good. June 2021 sounds good. We're going to be ready. And I know it's going to get fully back to normal. I refuse to talk about the new normal, the way things will be, I refuse to think that we're going to be forced into some kind of new normal. It's just a matter of when it'll all come back.
Well, I feel like you've been the guy, like you said, you played 15 or 20 shows or so, like since this began, and you were one of the first to really do that socially distanced show that most people, because like Chase Rice got shit on pretty hard for having that show. And then you had a show, I think that same weekend, but you kind of dodged some of that. And then the following week you came back with this, like, or maybe it was a week or two after that, but the minor league baseball show, everybody spread out, and like you were pretty applauded for like, all right, this is the best we got right now. Granger's putting on a pretty good example of like how we can still get shows done. And like, of course, it's probably not sustainable for the future, but how did you kind of navigate that in the beginning in such like a way that was pretty well received by people who were pretty much angry that any shows were happening at all?
Yeah, man, that seems like years ago.
Right, doesn't it? Like,
I was like, it's like the year is over. I was like, wait, what? Right, the other day, but
Rice was that like 2 years ago? Man, it's so that news is it's so annoying at this point. That's kind of the best way I could look at it. It's just so annoying to think to see all the different dynamics of what this country has gone through in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 months. Um, and no one's really on the same page. The people that just want to see no concerts, they can't really make an argument to why they need to be going to the grocery store and leaving the house. And the people that want everything to be back to normal, they have no argument on why a mask couldn't possibly help a little bit. And no one's really in between. And here's us, all the musicians, just trying to play some concerts. And we're like, dude, if y'all got to put on masks, whatever. If y'all got to separate, whatever. But let's just try to do something.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, people think I'm crazy, but I think that going to sporting events and concerts and any kind of entertainment is so healing that it has potential in the mental health realm to save lives in that way. The people that are on the end of the rope, they're done, man. They are done with this year. They're done with this coronavirus, and they're done with this life potentially. But going to a concert and having a cold beer and feeling that music hit their bodies could rejuvenate them. It could give them hope to say, you know what, it's worth it. It's worth hanging around a little bit longer. I know that's extreme with what I'm saying right now, but I believe that because we've played so many shows over so many years, and including places like Iraq, where you're literally bringing entertainment to Iraq for that very reason. People are losing hope in a world that's just not normal. And you bring a little bit of music in there, it lifts their spirits, it loosens things up a little bit, and they feel like they could move forward rejuvenated after that.
Yeah, for sure. We tweeted not that long ago, like you were talking about the time and how don't even know how long it's been, but it was something along, can't remember what our last concert was, not even a fucking clue. No idea. Like I literally have no idea the last concert I went to, and it's probably wasn't that long ago, maybe it was at the beginning of the year, but you start to get this weird feeling where you're almost like, how I started to pay attention just the way people act now, because there's people that are like there's going to be a portion of people that are more worried about it, that are probably going to be a lot more scared to get back into that world of going to concerts and stuff. And I started thinking about all of the different variations of how people approach like doing these things again. And I even see like in my building I live in now, I'm moving soon to Colorado. So I'm happy about that because I live in a high rise and I've had enough of it. But everybody's so different in the elevator, and people are weird, and people, everybody's more. So that element alone of just like the social like awkwardness now, that's almost seems heightened to me, which I'm already kind of a hyper aware of like the way people act when I go to the grocery store. This just adds another element that I'm just like, oh my God. So that's when I say the new normal. You keep hearing that, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but if it's just like this. People are building spacesuits for concerts. Like, put this spacesuit on and like, hey, here you go. Like, it's like people are going to be wearing like. It literally looks like they're like it's from a Ad Astra, that Brad Pitt movie or some shit. Like
you're going to Mars with Elon Musk.
You're kind of like, whoa. Like, is this going to be it? I mean, I don't know. That's weird because. I know the fans want it and want to see the live music. I mean, we see it on Twitter like constantly on social media. What you mentioned about like the mental aspect, though, I think is huge just in terms of like the live element of the summers and the springs and what country music has always been at, like getting so excited for those tailgates and those things that kind of bring people together. I'm like, what happened this year? I'm like, oh, what did I feel like I missed? That's one of those things, that feeling's hard to kind of like recreate.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean, you and millions of others, including me, we just miss that feeling of just being with a group that's united in one effort, which is either sports or music or some kind of entertainment. And I heard a guy say recently, what are we saving ourselves for? we're trying to save humanity, but for what kind of lifestyle are we saving it for? And I think it's a pretty good argument. It's like, oh, we got to wear spacesuits now. I'd rather just not be around. I'd rather not save ourselves than wear spacesuits. You know?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how serious those suits were, but I mean, they look pretty cool if you're just wearing it for like, I don't know, for something, but I can't imagine. I'm already claustrophobic, right. So I don't know how I would do on one of these things.
Well, and we've done a bunch of podcasts this year, even throughout COVID, and obviously it's a huge talking point. And the consensus among most artists seems to be like, you know, if you're young and you're healthy and you're probably not an at-risk person, like, let's kind of find a way to do some shows. If you're older and maybe you have some like underlying health issues that might make you more of a risk for COVID, you should probably stay home. And that seems like a pretty even exchange for like a way to like, just a no nonsense way that's a starting level.
That seems very logical to me. Like that seems very logical. But if it's not, apparently it's not.
Yeah, so we'll move on from that, but we'll see what the next year holds, and we'll have you on in however many months, hopefully when you're playing live shows again. But the one thing about, I don't know why this made me think of it, but with Earl Dibbles and all these things in social media, I don't know how you're on TikTok, right? Earl Dibbles and all that stuff. So it's like, you kind of got to be these days, but so are we. But songs now go viral on TikTok. Some of them are really, really bad. And then these people get like a record deal and you want to jump off a bridge. But then sometimes it's actually kind of cool and actually kind of funny. And most recently, the #1 song in the country, I don't know if you've heard this, a Texas guy, Dick Down in Dallas. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
What? Not bad, right? Like, have you listened to this thing?
I'll be totally honest. As we do this podcast, I have not listened to it. I was going to do it today.
Check it out.
We were passing around our little group me here at Yee Apparel. We were like, dude, look at the #1 song in the whole world right now.
You got to check it out. It's like, just like the initial feeling. I'm like, oh, this is like one of those nice mid-tempo like Texas country songs. And then you start listening, you're like, oh wait, did he just say that? So like Wheeler Walker, but more fine-tuned almost.
Yeah, like a little gives me these like early 2000s Chris Cagle vibes.
Yeah, that's another.
And I'm just like, I like it.
Well, we were laughing. We're just like, this is one example where it's like cool on TikTok for like, because some of the stuff is really bad that people have TikTok houses in Nashville now, and it's. But some of the cool stuff that can come from that are songs like this during a time like this, which kind of connects what we were talking about, where
you could use a laugh.
You could use a laugh, or you could use a way to, a lot of people still can't find a way to laugh, but songs like that are pretty funny. And how do you divvy up your time with the Earl Dibbles thing and knowing like, all right, I got to post a little thing with Earl here. I got to do my Earl thing, or is it an organic thing for you, where you're just like, people love the character, you don't want to overdo it to make it kind of watered down?
Yeah, a little bit of all that, and it's like some days are just all Earl. Like we just shot a music video; it was just on all Earl day, and then there's times I'll go 4, 5, 6 days without Earl anything. And during this whole COVID thing, Earl's done a lot more than he ever would if I was on a normal touring schedule. And I love that. So I love anytime we have to do Earl, like Earl picks these college football games for this show Inside College Football on CBS. And so that's at least once a week we're Earl filming, just picking college football, if nothing else. And I just love it. It's a good creative release. And you said earlier, it's funny, you said some people still haven't found a way to laugh yet.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of was, well, we need to give them more ways, because that's a sad life to live if you don't have enough ways to laugh. So I take a big responsibility, and maybe it's kind of silly, but I actually look at it as a responsibility as an entertainer to make people smile. Whether it's stupid or cheesy or funny, I think sometimes people just need to relax a little bit and smile. And at least you could say that's what TikTok has done. during COVID is people just sit back and they're just entertained and they get to forget about stuff for a little bit.
You mentioned the Yee apparel thing in your brother who helps with that, right? He was on the Bachelorette, but got sent home a little earlier than was one. Then people expected or wanted endless shit that you're giving him, right, for getting sent home, or how does that work?
Because that's the biggest risk when you go on that.
It wasn't first night. You didn't get sent home on the first night.
Oh, that was third episode, but I was so pissed about that, man. He was working the manager, and it was like the one time when he got to get the spotlight, and we had played The Bachelorette a couple of years ago, so that's how he met the producer.
I remember that.
And so he goes through a 2-week quarantine thing, goes up to California, does all this stuff, this ridiculous stuff. He said he was interviewed like 100 times. Not one single interview made the show. He was barely on. I mean, you could barely even see his face. It was not like
so crazy. Those reality shows.
I was pissed about it, man. I was like, this. Why did he waste his time? You know, we were putting out an album back then. Volume 1 of this record was coming out then, and I was like, there was a complete waste of his time.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of watch it because of our wives and stuff, and I kind of over the years, and we sometimes used to live tweet it just because it was like ridiculous and funny. But these reality shows, man, and like the things, and even for myself, like before Whiskey Riff was ever a thing, I almost was on the show MasterChef, the cooking show, and they put me through the process. It was not 100 interviews, but they did a similar thing where they were like wiring me up, and like I was like on the show. I thought, I'm like, they're like, this is it. These are the final interviews. And I was like, holy shit, this is, oh my God. And then it was just this. And then they're trying to make me cry. And then they were like, actually, are you a scumbag? And I'm like, wait, what? So they were just trying to like
elicit a response.
Well, no, they were trying to figure out what character are you going to be on the show? Because we need the guy that's this, the young guy that's this. So there was one like sob story element of my upbringing. And then there was like this, are you like an arrogant guy? I'm like, no, like I just, what? And then it was just boom, 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 producers hitting you.
We're looking for a loose cannon right now. And if you're not that.
Well then, and this is MasterChef. I'm going on there to make a fucking souffle. Right. This isn't the Bachelorette or, you know, where they're one of the biggest reality shows of all time, maybe the biggest.
Show you how to make a hollandaise sauce.
But I've heard those horror stories. From that specific show, and it's like, it's pretty like, I didn't know if you guys were just busting his balls. You're like, what a waste of time, but it's probably a little bit of both. But like the whole thing is just like a kind of a farce. It's just kind of people trying to get like, the people that stick around are people that seem to get like buddy with producers and all that nonsense. And my wife watches it now, and I just kind of like do work on the computer. But I totally forgot your brother was on until we were getting ready for this podcast. I was like, oh, wait a minute, we got to ask about this, because like
you guys could create some type of like Earl Dibbles hosted,
yeah, that's good,
Bachelor type of thing where your brother is the character. And you just, you know, bring in some gals. And I mean,
you do it outside in the woods, and you make it more.
I mean, we'll talk about royalties and stuff for giving you this idea later, but
not a bad idea.
I mean, we exclusively broadcast on Whiskey Riff.
Facebook Live that fucking thing.
We've definitely we've gone down that path a couple of times, just like wondering if we should do something like that, because the show itself, I mean, it's just, like you said, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's pretty much all fake. Hilarious to me. The fact
they were taking words out of guys' mouths, changing them around, making them say a thing through the edit. So and it's not people know that. Everyone knows that. People that watch it don't believe it, but it's just entertainment. And I think that's how they spin it. That's how the show spins it. It's like, hey, do you want to be entertained or not? We're not trying to say that this is true love. The dude's making out with her in the hot tub, and then they leave and go to it, and she's with another dude. I mean, it's not real. So
you just simplified why it's not real in the most perfect one sentence ever. It's like, obviously any normal guy or gal would be like, well, of course I don't fucking love you. I'm watching you make out with that person over there.
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's just funnier though. But yeah, I don't know. Moving on though. We did want to ask, because we're seeing this a lot more. You're a Texas guy. You're from Texas. You signed the record deal, kind of become more mainstream. Cody Johnson recently, I think sky's the limit for a guy like that, kind of becoming a little more mainstream. See it a lot. Parker McCollum recently as well, and a lot of amazing talent in Texas. The one thing you always see though, and literally Wetzel, his new album, he called it Sellout after he signed a record deal with Columbia Records. You always just see it. Sellout. As soon as an artist gets big, whether it's Luke Combs just doing it his way, sellout. You'll just see those every now and then, one of those comments. Texas guys get it a lot.
Yeah, there seems to be it's a little closer to the vest with Texas guys.
And it's just like, it's a funny thing. You went through that, and it's still a thing. And now when we look at it with these other younger artists kind of coming up, and what's your take on that? And Wes, I'll add to this, but like, it's a very different world, but a very similar world in the fans are passionate. They love their music. They love their country music. When they see is it like a thing where they see their own kind of like leave? Is that like the feeling that you think that they're experiencing? Or is it just a thing with music in general, no matter if you're Texas or not? When that level of success gets to a certain point, fans are always going to kind of like want to get a little upset if they hear one song that's slightly different, or one thing that's slightly different, or it's a lot to navigate, I know.
It's interesting because we were just talking about this today here at the office, but it's like, that's the Beatles are what spawned the Stones. And then you like the slick hair metal bands of the 80s is what spawned the grunge rock in Seattle of the 90s. And like the underground always feeds the pop world. And then the bigger the pop world gets, it feeds a bigger underground. And so they just play back and forth. And I think so much of that stuff, the sellout stuff, it always originates, if you watch it, it always originates from artists first, not fans. Fans learn it from other artists. So like the whole bro country phenomenon, that was born by underground artists that were coining that phrase and being like, man, we ain't bro country. We ain't those guys. We'll never be bro country. And the fans hear it and they love it. And they're like, oh yeah, I agree. I hate bro country. I agree. And then they kind of carry it forward. And so it's good. I mean, people would hate to hear me say this, but it's good marketing for an underground artist to start calling out the above ground artist, or whatever you want to call it. It's really good because that gets really good engagement. Fans love it. We saw it all through the 2000s in Texas country with guys like Corey Morrow having songs like hating on Nashville all the time. Nashville sucks. There's a whole Corey Morrow record that starts with Nashville sucks. Yeah. And it got him a record deal. You know, like that stuff sells records. People love it. So no matter how you look at it, if you really feel that way, fine. If you kind of feel that way, it's really smart to say it because fans love it. They eat it up, and it only feeds it all feeds each other. So Code knows that, you know, and so Code makes a record called Sellout. Like, so that's a perfect example.
It's genius, like, yeah.
He was gonna call it Pop Country Trash, and I thought that would have been a great title too.
It would have been. So yeah, it's funny what my brother Tyler, he would, when we first started kind of popping, he would see that stuff that says Sellout, and he would always be so quick to reply and say, "You're right. Every venue we play." So it's all fun.
I like to refer to this. I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, but when he signed that $100 million Spotify deal, I think they asked him something or somebody, and I think his line to the effect was, "It's not selling out if you get what you want." And it's like a very like simple way to phrase it, but it's a great way to phrase it because you're working towards something. And if you want something and it's more security for your family or financially, but like creative control of what you want to do, and somebody offers that and you take it, that doesn't make, okay, I'm a sellout. Well, I'm getting what I want. It's not really,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Totally.
Are you supposed to stop and go, whoa, whoa, whoa? Is Luke Combs supposed to go, wait? I'm getting too big here.
Don't pay me.
Like what do people want people to do that are called sellouts? It's like just whoa. No more. I don't want any more accolades.
Yeah, I want to play dive bars for the rest of my life. And
it's like everybody, you guys love the dive bar thing, but it's like everybody does. We love going to the dive bar and play and watching those shows, but every artist, I feel like, goes through a process when they get bigger of, you know, the music reaching more people. The dive bar becomes a little bit of a bigger bar. It becomes maybe a little bit of a smaller venue, and then an amphitheater, and then maybe you're opening for fucking Kenny Chesney at a Soldier Field, or, you know, like that.
Maybe you're headlining Soldier Field.
Yeah, like, so you see that kind of trajectory a lot of times in music, and it's not really selling out. It's people liking your music more.
Totally. And you, as artists, we play the dive bars, and we want to play as many as we can because that's paying the bills. So then you realize at some point you're like, man, I could play bigger venues and play them less often and be home more and make the same amount of money as playing 200 dive bars. I could play 120 bigger venues. And then you realize, man, maybe I could play like 60 amphitheaters, still make the same money as 200 dive bars, and be home a lot more and have to do a lot more fishing. Mm-hmm. Why would anyone want to think that? And then it's people get this personal investment with music. You know, they get a personal attach, like it's theirs. Like Luke Combs songs, that song is mine. And so it makes it. Bob's concrete company down the road, he's got one little truck and a little trailer that he works out of, but he starts growing, and pretty soon Bob's got 8 trucks and a nice big metal building that he works out of. And no one says, I hate Bob, that's sellout. Bob's such a sellout. He's got 8 concrete trucks. No one says that.
He can't lay a driveway of shit anymore.
Yeah. No, instead they go, great for Bob, man. He's a great dude and he deserves what he's getting. It's so funny. It's the opposite with music.
Well, yeah, and everybody, even for us, we get it all the time as we got bigger and bigger, more visitors, more social. It's like, just hypothetical, like we do like the 10 most underrated, whoever, Eric Church, Turnpike Troubadours songs or something like that. You'll get these comments like, you fucking missed this song. I say, no, I didn't, asshole. This is my this is my list. This is my opinion.
Start your own website. Make your list.
Build your own business. Start your own website. Start your own thing. Make your fucking list. Yeah. It's pretty simple. I didn't forget anything. We always see that though. They're like, or it goes, the worst is we post something, they read the title and they don't read the article, and then they go, wow, like blah, blah. I'm like, did you read it? And then they respond back, no, I just did. My apologies. What the fuck? Like, you off of the title of just being, so people just are going to talk too. That's like a huge element of this as well. It's just people just want to talk.
And the most negative is the people that talk.
Yeah.
The people who like it, they're just like, oh, I like this. And they'll keep coming back and liking it. But the people who have shit to say, they're going to be the ones who get in the comment section. And I'm sure you experience that as well.
Or they get mad at, like, how can you possibly listen to like a song by Coetzel, but then also like, you know, like a song by just like some mainstream, like whatever song. It's like, well, you can kind of be like, that song's catchy and kind of whatever. And I like this coast. You can like other shit. It's like everybody has their own thing. Like, I listen to classical music and then Kygo, and then I'll listen to Granger Smith, and I'll listen to George Strait, and then I'll listen to Beethoven again. That's fine. Like, that doesn't make me less of a country fan. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. Let me read this sits on the desk right here. This is Teddy Roosevelt. I gotta say it's totally relevant, but who counts? Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who actually does strive to do the good deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
I'm ready to run through a fucking wall.
I'll flip this table over.
Where did that come from? That just came, somebody just dropped that in with a drone?
My best, man. It's perfect for my life, and anyone that looks at Kurt Wetzel or Luke Combs or any of the names we've mentioned that are y'all's podcast or Whiskey Riff in general, they look at it, and you can't sit up in the high stands and just call down judgment unless you're in the field, in the arena with the gladiators, fighting, building something. You can't. We're not going to listen to you unless you're down there with us, bloody and sweaty and dirty. That's just the way it is.
Random stupid post we did on the site a while ago was like that people didn't know it was like the real names of country artists, because a lot of people don't have their like real names as their. Yours is actually Granger Smith. Cool. I actually think that's a really cool first name, but your last name obviously is very, very common. Was your parents thought if we name him after an industrial supply company, but change the, take the I out,
add some spice.
It kind of offsets the very basic Smith. So then it's just like the country goes here, and then okay, then do you know how the first name was given to you? Granger.
Yeah, I don't know about
Granger's makes a bunch of.
I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't admit. Yeah, they're actually a great company. I always thought myself getting cool things there, but I don't know. Maybe they haven't admitted that to me, but there was a town called Granger, which we actually live close to, so it's probably that. But you're right on with the fact that my dad's name was Chris, so I think it's just tough growing up. Chris Smith. It's just like the most common, mundane name you could have. So they wanted to spice it up a little bit.
I like that. So what the album, the single? When you have an album like this, do you have a certain amount of singles that you want to release, or do you kind of start to see how the first or one or two do, and then kind of gauge interaction on like streaming and socials to kind of see how many you might put out before?
Well, even too, it's like now you can't get out and really do the live stuff to kind of feel. I mean, you can look at streaming numbers, I guess, but like you can't get out and feel like, oh, what's going to happen with the live show? Maybe get a vibe for a next single with that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. You guys got me on like all these subjects I get real mad about. That's definitely one of them too. But
is it the single stuff?
Yeah, man.
This is us off too. Like we've gotten in like arguments with like labels. That's why they don't like us. We're like, you guys are fucking stupid, man. When we see a label from an artist, and we see what they release as a single, and we talk to the artist, we're like, what could they possibly be looking at where that song is the single?
Yeah, they're looking at one thing: country radio.
Yeah,
and it takes a year to promote a single now. It takes a year, and so your hardcore fans, you're like 8 months down the road just driving the same song, and they're like, we get it, we like it, but is there anything else? And it's tough, man. It's tough for artists to sit there and rally a song for 55 weeks to see what it does on country radio. And on the old days, George and Alan standing behind you there, they could run 3 singles a year, no problem. Like no problem. One in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall, and then recycle the next year.
Right.
And it's not like that anymore. So when you look at an album now, you're looking at 1 or 2 singles on the entire album, and it's tough. The good thing about it is you could spin it where you do all these alternate music videos for other songs, and you could get something viral on social media. The bottom line, the way I look at it is, I'm looking at moments from my live show, which we currently don't have, but if I have a 90-minute show, I'm looking for about 23 or 4-minute moments in the whole set. So if I have an album, radio single is always a great driver of a moment. But if there's another song that's a good story or a good live moment of some sort, or I could change pace, that gives my show more dynamic, and I could just insert these moments. And that's always the goal, is to have those moments in a 90-minute show.
How much of a say do you really have in what your next single is going to be?
Well, I think we're a little bit different. We have complete control at our label, and that's
nice.
They trust us, and we trust them. They're actually just really good people. That's why we got with them when we did. But if Tyler and I, my brother and I, if we go to them and say, guys, we feel so strongly about this, we have to do it, they're going to say great. They're going to say great. At the same time, we're going to listen to them when they know something we might not know about something. We'd be stupid to not listen to them. But they are good people, and I feel like we have a good relationship.
It reminds me, like, it's a good place to end it. It's you talking about sports a little bit with the concerts too, and it's like there's this element of like sports too, like in football or baseball most famously, but the analytics element of, well, no, did it pass you by? So now these coaches are like Mike McCarthy in Dallas, like doesn't pay attention to analytics, right? So everybody says he sucks. So it's just like there's one of the right. So the labels, I feel like so often though will focus on these weird metrics of not being to kind of tune into the pulse of what's kind of going on like the socials and the young people and like kind of what people are saying and vibing on. And then they see something like we've done where we've posted like a Ronnie Dunn song that was like a deep cut on an album, like I Worship the Woman You Walk On, which was like not going to be a single. And it went viral on the site. And it going viral on the site resulted in his like Spotify plays skyrocketing. And then they released it as a single. It's like, oh, see, they're like, no, like, well, yeah, like you guys should, your little system should be able to predict or know that this is a great song, because all you have to do is fucking turn it on and listen to it to know it's amazing and that people love it.
That's gotta
We
make
don't
you
have to get 2 million hits on one song on our site to be like, oh, that's a good song. No, it's Ronnie Dunn singing an amazing song. You guys should be able to know that.
Yeah.
And they become like bogged down in these weird like metrics of, I don't know what.
Well, even like Miranda Lambert's Tin Man, which really didn't do too much on country radio, but it was like, that was a phenomenal song. And they actually did put it out to country radio, but it was like, everything said there was no way they should put that out to country radio because it's slow, it's kind of emotional, not what country radio is looking for, but they put it out anyway. And it's like, still to this day, one of the best songs I've heard in the last 10 years.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's got to make you guys feel good about the Ronnie Dunn thing too, man, because it happens, and that's a really cool thing you guys got with that.
I mean, that was cool. The fans, you want to say anything to the fans? New album, don't know about the tour, but they're doing a lot in supporting you. Country things. You want to take us out, Granger, and a little message to the fans here?
Yeah, to kind of wrap it up what we were saying, and in the long form of the podcast, I could say this, that there's going to be songs off this record that go up on the Spotify and Apple Music playlist, and they get millions of streams, but that doesn't mean that you can't listen to the rest of it and you can't kind of dig in, because you could find those magic gems like you guys did with Ronnie Dunn, and it just gets out there, and it could speak to you more than the songs with millions of streams. And so as artists, we don't, maybe I can't speak for everybody, but I think most of them, we don't put a single song on an album. It doesn't mean something for some reason that needs to be on there for some reason. So every single song is chosen. Every drum hit was, I was right there with it. So it matters to me. So I would encourage people to take the deep dive, I should say.
Love it. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff on here. A lot of deep stuff, but a lot of fun stuff. And I agree with you on definitely one of our more favorite things you put out. So cheers, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks. Hopefully we can actually in person have a few drinks soon. So
do this live.
Absolutely.
We used to do all our podcasts live, and we had a hard rule. Like, we don't do them over Skype. We don't do them over the phone. Like,
COVID changed shit.
COVID changed that. But
I appreciate you guys having me, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it was a great time, man. Cheers.
All right, take it easy, man.
See you guys.
See ya.